And this is what rubs me the wrong way when it comes to Chris Sims, who a lot of times he has reasonable takes, but it's just, I realize he's just being stubborn. And he ranked Jalen Hurts at 10, and he says, the truth hurts. The truth is, he didn't want to put him in the top 10. Let's be real. That's the truth. Jalen Hurts, he doesn't want him in the top 10. And the only reason he's even putting him there is because now for the second time in the Super Bowl, we've seen Jalen Hurts ball out, and this time he wins, and this time he's the Super Bowl MVP. So he literally has to put him in the top 10 because it would be utterly ridiculous not to. Now look, you have Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud ranked over Jalen Hurts. And look, if we just come here, right? I'm using my fantasy rankings, but just to look at the stats. But if you go here, okay, let's look at CJ Stroud. 2024, 20 touchdowns. 20 touchdowns passing, 0 rushing touchdowns. Okay? He complains about Jalen Hurts had, 18 touchdowns in the regular season passing? Okay, but let's go look at Jalen Hurts' stats now. Jalen Hurts had 14 rushing touchdowns with those 18 touchdowns. And he's only had 5 interceptions last year. 5. That's it. That's not a lot. Okay? Now, he also wants to talk about Justin Herbert. So let's go look at Justin Herbert here. Justin Herbert had 23 touchdowns last year. Just 2 rushing. Yet this dingleberry wants to rank him above Jalen Hurts. This to me is a hatred for a player, or the unwillingness to admit you were wrong on your quarterback evaluation on all aspects with Jalen Hurts. He's much better than Justin Herbert. In fact, to me, Justin Herbert, how can anyone say Justin Herbert is a top 10 quarterback? He's not. He's actually gotten worse the last 3 years. He came out the first 2 years, looked good, but he hasn't done anything. And he's not getting better. That's the thing with Justin Herbert. He's not improving. He's getting worse every year. He's not a top 10 quarterback. But because he was picked 6th overall, they're going to rank him. Because he's a 6'6" quarterback, they're going to rank him higher. But that's not what a quarterback is. Just because you're 6'6", just because you have some physical tools, it doesn't mean you're a good quarterback. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks with great arms, great size, not amount to anything in the NFL. Justin Herbert has shown me nothing to be, he's not even in my top 15. To be 100% honest, I can tell you 15 quarterbacks I would take over Justin Herbert. Nothing against the guy, but he hasn't shown it yet. So to have him above Jalen Hurts is ridiculous. Okay, if you wanted to say put Baker Mayfield, okay, I understand. I actually think Mayfield's a good quarterback. I don't think he's better than Jalen Hurts, but he did have a huge year last year. He had 41 touchdowns, right? So yeah, okay, okay, I'll give you that one. I don't agree with it, but I'm just saying, okay, the guy had 40 touchdowns. He's won a couple playoff games or whatever it is we saw. But I like Baker. He's not better than Jalen Hurts, though. But, okay, Justin Herbert, though, is ridiculous. And let's look at C.J. Stroud. Okay, let's see what C.J. Stroud did. C.J. Stroud had 20 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, no rushing touchdowns. Just 20 passing touchdowns. And this guy wants to put him above Jalen Hurts. In 2023, C.J. Stroud had just 23 passing touchdowns. But he complains about what Jalen Hurts' stats are. But Jalen Hurts, at least, he's a dual threat quarterback, though. So you're comparing his passing touchdowns to other quarterbacks' passing touchdowns when he doesn't have to get 40 touchdowns. He doesn't 30 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts doesn't, because he's going to get 14 or 15 of them running the ball. Okay? Jalen Hurts has gotten better every year. Okay? Every year he's gotten better. And for anyone not to have him ranked higher than that, to me, it's ridiculous. When a guy plays his best football in the Super Bowl, and more than one Super Bowl, you can say one Super Bowl is a fluke, but now we've seen it in 2 Super Bowls. Balls out, 70% completion rate. You can't, and throwing dimes, dropping 50-yard bombs on the money. You can't tell me somehow his arm's not good enough. How good does your arm have to be? If you make a 50-yard bomb in the Super Bowl, if you're dropping dimes on 4th down to A.J. Brown, that's all you need. I don't care if he throws harder than some other quarterbacks. I mean, Donovan McNabb had a great arm, but he would his passes would be in the dirt all the time when he would get nervous. So the bottom line is this. It's just ridiculous. He has no legitimate reason to put Jalen Hurts that low. And that's why he says it's the truth hurts, because the truth is he don't even want him in the top 10. And it hurt Chris Sims to put him that high. I'm telling you. If Jalen Hurts had an average Super Bowl in just one of them, he wouldn't even have – if Eagles won the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts had an average game, he would have Jalen Hurts ranked at 20. It's only because he has to put him in there. That's the thing that bothers me. Okay? So, let's look at some of these other quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels had 25 touchdowns last year. 6 rushing touchdowns. Now, I'm a huge Jaden Daniels fan. But how do you have Jaden Daniels at 25 touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns? How do you compare that to Jalen Hurts and say he had a better year? He's a better quarterback after one season. Jaden Daniels is not 5 yet. I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. I have a lot of respect for that guy. But he's not 5. He's not above Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a dual threat quarterback. He does it all. And he hasn't been stopped. That's the funny thing is. And then there's always this excuse, Jalen Hurts has a good team around him. Okay, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks with good teams around them not win Super Bowls. We've seen Peyton Manning for years choke in the playoffs. We've seen the Baltimore Lamar Jackson choke in the playoffs. And I like Lamar, but he's not a good playoff quarterback. And to me, you have to take that into account. Playoff performance, to me, is so much more rated highly, to me, about what a quarterback really is in the hardest of moments where you're playing the best teams in the league. That's when you shine. That's what a great quarterback does. That's what Tom Brady did. Tom Brady had no great tools. Now, here's the thing that's going to happen. Jalen Hurts is going to win more Super Bowls. And that number on Chris Sims' quarterback countdown is going to go up. And he's going to have to give in. He never wanted to put Jalen in the top 10. I guarantee he never wanted to. The thing is and here's the other argument that Chris Sims has that really annoys me. Here's the thing. He says, Jalen Hurts, that first playoff game against Green Bay, wasn't that good. Guy was coming off an injury. He hadn't played in weeks. So, yeah, it took him a game or two to get going. And then even against the Rams, he got hurt in that game when he was tackled. He battled through it. They won. He didn't make big mistakes that cost him the game. So the bottom line is, that's a bullshit excuse. And then he wants to hold on to, well, I saw a couple regular season games where he wasn't that good passing the ball. I could show you several games from any quarterback in the regular season where they didn't look good passing the ball. Even Patrick Mahomes. He didn't look great last season. He still won games because he has a good team around him. So the bottom line is, what I don't like is when it comes to Jalen Hurts, every time he's successful, it's because he has a great team around him. When it comes to other quarterbacks who are supposedly great, When they have a great game, even with great players around them, it's because the quarterback's great. So it's a double standard, and I'm so tired of it. Jalen Hurts has been undervalued, underrated in this league for years now, for years. And the bottom line is, I'm tired of it. And I know Jalen Hurts is going to win another Super Bowl, and eventually he's going to move up, just like Tom Brady. Nobody gave Tom Brady that much credit after his first Super Bowl. It wasn't until he won his second that people started to up him, and then third, and then they had to start talking about him differently. And that's what's going to happen to Jalen Hurts, because people are too focused on what happened to him in college, how, when he came out of college, he still needed to work on his passing game a little bit. He did. His passing game is good enough to win Super Bowls, to play great in Super Bowls. Well, what else do I need? What else do you need to see? He can run. What other quarterbacks can run the way he does? Not too many. And the fact that he could run should not be held against him. The fact that he's got 14 touchdowns rushing the ball should not be held against him. And then some people, it's a tush push. Tush push is just a quarterback sneak. Most of that is Jalen Hurts. He's powering through, and the offensive line. But the bottom line is Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. Okay, now there's not one quarterback on this list that I think you could really make an argument that is better than Jalen Hurts. And if there was one guy on this list that I would say, okay, I would say Matthew Stafford. And he's won a Super Bowl. And I think Stafford's a star. But the bottom line is Jalen Hurts is better than all 5 of these guys. And to be honest, how do you have Justin Herbert over Baker Mayfield? What has Justin Herbert done? You just like his skill set. That's not what a quarterback is. That's not. I mean, this guy, Chris Sims, used to play quarterback. You'd think he'd have a clue. How do you have C.J. Stroud over Baker Mayfield? What has C.J. Stroud done? I like C.J. Stroud, so don't get me wrong. But his quarterback rankings, man, I scratch my head sometimes. I'm like, no wonder this guy was a backup quarterback. I don't think he understands the position very well at all. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Really, he doesn't. He's too intrigued by certain, physical attributes. I could talk about this for hours, guys. But this is a joke right here that Jalen Hurts is 10. But I love it. You know why? Because it's just motivation for Jalen. He's just going to say, all right, I'll show you again. For the 3rd time in a Super Bowl, I'm going to show you again. Jalen Hurts is a winner. Yes, he has a good team around him. Anyone who wins Super Bowls has a good team around him. That's the way it goes. So you can't hold that against Jalen Hurts and not hold it against every other quarterback who's ever won a Super Bowl. Tom Brady's won Super Bowls, and some of that came from his defense. He had great defenses around him, And so I just don't like to hear this kind of garbage, It's just bullshit. You just don't want to admit you're wrong, Chris Sims. You are wrong about Jalen Hurts. You're still wrong. You're just too stubborn to admit it. That's all I got, guys. Thanks for listening to me vent. I'll talk to you next time.